entire offseason, revamping the ball club and adding Mr. Bonilla, Mr. Murray, and Mr. Randolph, among others, and we hope that it will pay dividends and we will ultimately win the Eastern Division of the National League in 1990.
Is this Innes guy any good? Yeah.
Jeff Innes is an integral part of the team. The side-arming right-hander is to be counted on heavily this year, setting up Mr. Franco.
If you like what you're seeing on our spring preview, give us a call at 1-800-OK-CABLE. Remember, the Mets home opener is next.
Live from Shea Stadium in Flushing, New York, Sports Channel presents New York Mets baseball. Today, the Mets take on the Montreal Expos. Well, the festivities have concluded here at Shea Stadium. Hello again, everybody. I'm Fran Healy, along with Ralph Kiner and our colleague Rusty Staub. Opening day here at Shea 1992. It'll be the Mets against the Montreal Expos, and on the mound, Mr. Kiner, and all eyes will be on him, the doctor, Dwight Gooden.
Well, he's certainly used to it. He has the best record winning percentage of anybody that ever pitched in the major leagues, and he'll be going here today. Of course, everyone wonders how that operation turned out. He looked very good this spring, threw the ball as well as he threw it prior to the operation and prior to hurting his arm.
The sad thing is, every time out now, because of that operation, from here on in, people will be concerned. The day that the doc steps off the rubber and does this, they can say, uh-oh, does he have that problem? And really, Brett Saberhagen also had arm surgery in the past. So I think a lot of people are concerned with that, but if they stay healthy, those two guys can lead the Mets to the division championship here in 1992.
Well, the Mets do have a very strong pitching staff. Of course, they've added a lot of new players. Should be a great year for the New York Mets. In spite of all the problems, the attitude of the ball club is fantastic.
And people really, great round of applause for Dwight Gooden when he was announced prior to the ball game, and also Bobby Bonilla. Anyway, stay with us. When we come back, we'll give you the lineups for this afternoon's game. Shea, the balloons have been released and the Mets have taken the field. And in just a few moments, and here we go right now, Nori Shea, wife of the late Bill Shea, will throw out the first ball.
Bill Shea, of course, the man who was instrumental in bringing National League Baseball back to the New York area after the Dodgers and Giants left for the West Coast. And Bill Shea, a prominent attorney, dying last year, but one of the great friends of baseball.
Bill Shea bringing that game of baseball here at the National League, bringing National League Baseball back here to Shea. And you think there's enough coverage? The Mets have been covered pretty thoroughly from spring training on. Of course, last night, as Al Harrison mentioned on the Mets on Deck, we talked about a little bit of an altercation last night when the Mets arrived from St. Louis. Of course, the verdict, I should say, it was decided in Florida not to press charges against today's starting pitcher, Doc Gooden, Vince Coleman, and Darryl Boston. So the media was here, wanting a reaction. They got one. There's Nori Shea with the first pitch here in 1992. It's the 29th season of play here at Shea, 31st year in New York. And of course, my colleague, Mr. Ralph Kiner, has been here for 31 years of broadcasting.
Well, of course, the first 2 years were at the Polo Grounds. And then in 1964, the Mets coming over here to Shea Stadium. Mets and home openers have won 18 and lost 12. And here at Shea, they won 17 of the 21 home openers. Fantastic record at Shea Stadium.
All right, now we're going to take a look at the Montreal Expo lineup. As you can see, they came in. They had a tough year last year, and you're looking at Delino DeShields, who's off to a fast start here in 1992. Fred Barbary will bat second and play third base. In left field, Ivan Calderon, who at one time was a player for the Chicago White Sox under Jeff Torborg. The middle three for the Expos will be right fielder Larry Walker, first baseman Tim Wallach, and center fielder Marquis Grissom. Bottom three, Darren Fletcher the catcher, Spike Owen at shortstop, and Ken Hill the pitcher.
And Dwight Gooden on the mound for the Mets. He had a record of 13-7 last year, 1-1 against Montreal last season. Lifetime he's 10-7 against Montreal, and Doc Gooden has been, of course, the best winning pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball so far through his career.
And he'll rely on that defense this afternoon. Murray, Randolph, Elster, and Magadan in the infield. Boston, Johnson, Bonilla left to right in the outfield. O'Brien behind the plate. And the umpires in this afternoon's ball game. Jim Quick will lead it off. Ed, I should say, will be behind the plate. Ed Rapuano at first base. Paul Runge out at second base. And Tom Hallion over at third base. Delino DeShields, fine young player for the Montreal Expos, will lead it off. You see his stats through 3 games. Had a tough year last year for those Expos, and he takes a strike from the doctor. Listen to the crowd.
Oh, DeShields a real tough year last year. Led the National League in strikeouts with 151.
He was a big disappointment to the Montreal Expos. They are very high on this kid, who at one time had signed a letter of intent to play basketball at Villanova. He fouls the ball out of play, 1-2.
He changed his work habits this spring. He's off to a good start. 6 hits in his first 13 at bats, hitting .462, and he has a home run, an inside the park home run, his first in the major leagues, and that came in the series against Pittsburgh.
And he fouls another one out of play, 1-2. So the doctor throwing the ball hard here to Delino DeShields, and DeShields dressing like Ty Cobb.
How about Babe Ruth? He used to wear him up like that too.
And he slaps the ball to the left side. Darrell Boston out there makes the grab, 1 down. Vince Coleman will be out for a little while. Pulled hamstring.
Well, Gooden right there going to his curveball. Gooden, when he first came to the major league, struck everybody out that he struck out with the blazing fastball that really did have a lot of movement on it. He lost that somewhere down the line. He is now a strikeout pitcher on his curveball.
And he'll face Brett Barbary. And Barbary takes outside ball 1. Barbary playing third base for the Expos. So they had to move Tim Wallach to first base. So they took a Gold Glove and moved him to first base.
The irony of that whole thing is the only time that Tim Wallach ever led the National League in fielding at his third base position was last year. So they moved him off of there and put him at first to his protest. He didn't want to go there.
Wanted to be traded. And the 2-0 pitch to Barbary, and there's a strike. 2-1.
Barbary with a good bat. Batted .353 in 57 games for Montreal last year, so they felt he had to play third, and that's how Wallach was moved.
Swing on and miss, 2-2. Barbary, 5'11", 180 pounds, 24 years old. Has not been around very long in professional ball.
Got a lot of experience playing at the University of Southern California in LA. And he was brought up by a father that was a pro ball player.
Outside, 3-2. Played with the U.S. Olympic team after being drafted by the Montreal Expos.
That team won the gold medal in South Korea.
Fights a fastball off, so the count remains 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Second Expo to ever hit a home run from both sides of the plate in a single game. Tim Raines the first. He has good power both ways.
Swung on, foul tip, hung on to by Charlie O'Brien. 2 down. First strikeout for the doctor here in 1992.
Well, he went after a very bad pitch, and you're not going to hit this pitch. And to strike out most of the time when you're swinging the ball, it almost hits the dirt. That was a fastball.
Now we got Ivan Calderon, who will face the doctor. As I mentioned, Calderon at one time a member of the Chicago White Sox. Swung on and missed, strike 1.
There's that good curve. Calderon injured at the end of the season, did only pinch hitting, and he tore it up as a pinch hitter to get his average to 300.
He pops the ball up right side. Bonilla coming in and makes the grab for out number 3. So the Expos here in the first, 3 up, 3 down. We go to the bottom of the first. No score here at Shea. Opening day, 1992 at Shea. At the 7-11 Mets lineup. Leading off, Darryl Boston. He'll be followed by Willie Randolph and then Bobby Bonilla. The middle 3, center fielder Howard Johnson, first baseman Eddie Murray, third baseman Dave Magadan, and the bottom 3, Kevin Elster, Charlie O'Brien, and Dwight Gooden.
And Ken Hill on the mound for Montreal, acquired from the St. Louis Cardinals. And he had a record last year of 11 wins and 10 losses for St. Louis with an earned run average of 3.57. Making his first start for Montreal.
And the Expos defense, Wallach, the Shields, Owen and Barbary in the infield, Calderon, Grissom and Walker in the outfield, Fletcher behind the plate, and a sellout crowd at Shea Stadium. Sun-drenched afternoon, beautiful April day in New York. Darryl Boston steps in the first pitch, fly ball, center field, Grissom under it, and makes the grab for out number 1. When you look at Darryl Boston, first thing I think of, Ralph, is here's a guy playing for a manager who didn't want him in Chicago.
Well, he did release him in Chicago, but generally it's a combined effort. The general manager, the manager, and the coaches all say, well, he doesn't fit into our plans, but now he has him back. So Jeff Torborg, the manager of Darryl Boston, once again
changing his mind, saying this guy might be able to play. Of course, it was a matter of numbers. Jeff told me when he was in Chicago, they just ran out of positions, and Darryl Boston was the odd man out. As you look at a guy who's never been out, Willie Randolph. Willie took down low, ball 1. Randolph so far this year batting 102 RBIs. Back in New York, a nice round of applause by the fans here at Shea Stadium. The ex-Yankee captain, and the 1-0 pitch. There's a strike. 1-1. Talking to Willie before the ballgame, he was telling me that every day the Mets meet with Barry Foote and they talk about defensive alignment every single day, not just once a series, but every single game. And the 1-1 pitch. There's a strike, 1-2. He said it kind of reminded him of Oakland when he played for Tony La Russa, but he didn't have a meeting every single day. He had a meeting once a homestand. He said the only guy that really didn't go to the meetings, Ricky Henderson. 2-2 on Willie Randolph. Henderson that year won the MVP.
Well, so Branch Rickey used to have a lot of meetings, and of course ball players don't like them. Sort of like going to school. Don't want to go to school because you think you know everything.
That's
but
right.
It helps.
It certainly does. Willie said he feels it makes everybody aware of their assignments on that day. There's a ground ball to short. Spike Owen.
Owen last year got beat out by Ozzie Smith for the fielding championship at shortstop. He had been the leading fielder percentage-wise 2 years prior to last year.
And Bobby Bonilla, first at bat here at Shea Stadium in front of a sellout crowd. I always like to monitor his nervous system. Kid born and brought up in the Bronx. Down low to Bobby Bonilla. Ball 1.
Bonilla now leads the National League in RBIs with 7. He's hit 2 home runs. Ties him for second.
One of the players who was very upset at the reception the Mets received last night here at Shea Stadium by some of the media. He hits a drive to center field, and Grissom is there and makes the grab for out number 3. So the Mets go down gently here in the first. We played 1, and on the Sherwin-Williams scoreboard, there is no score, and we'll be back.
Rights granted by the New York Mets solely for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the New York Mets and Sports Channel is prohibited.
And the doctor throws a strike to Larry Walker. Right now this season batting .231, 1 RBI. And the 0-1 pitch. Down low, 1-1. Larry Walker grew up playing hockey as a goaltender. On his team was Cam Neely of the Boston Bruins, who's waiting to hear. Any word on the NHL so far today? Negative. Possible press conference at 3 o'clock as Walker bounces back to the dock. score it 1-3. One down. So Larry Walker makes his way back to the dugout, and with one man down, the batter will be Tim Wallach. Very unhappy Tim Wallach. They finally got somebody that wanted to sign with the ball club that was a marquee name. Tim Wallach signed a long-term deal, had an off season after signing the contract. So what did they do the following year? Upset him, move him from his favorite position to first base, although he did play first base in college.
His average dropped 71 points from the previous year, the second biggest drop in Major League Baseball, the biggest by George Brett, who dropped 74 points. But he is a man who said he loves to play in Montreal, and of course he's from Southern California.
You want to keep those guys happy.
I would think so, because most of the players like to get out of Canada.
There's a drive down the left field line. Foul ball. Tim Wallach, his ex-teammate Tim Burke, now with the Mets. And I was told a story. I'd have to get it verified by Tim Burke, but it's a great story that when Tim Burke came up with a pickoff move with a runner on first and a runner on third, it was Tim Wallach's idea. You take your pivot foot off the rubber, fake the ball to first base, and whirl and throw to third. First 4 times they tried it, it was successful. You take your pivot foot off the rubber, so it's not a block to first. You go to first and then all the way around to third.
In the immortal words of Charlie Dressen, I'd like to see him do it again.
4 straight times. 2-1 on Tim Wallach. Ground ball to third. Magadan bounces it. Murray picks it. 2 down.
Oh, Murray saving a throwing error after a good play by Magadan. He had all the time in the world. Wallach is not fast, but he throws the ball badly. Makes a good pick here. And this is a tough one to pick up. It's that half hop, and Murray made it. Good job by Eddie Murray. He's saying, look on the other hand.
Marquis Grissom steps in and takes a strike from the doctor. 0-1. The doctor with pretty good stuff so far. Facing a pretty good player. Last year batted .267 for the Expos, and he takes down low.
How about having him hit 6th in the batting order? And this fellow led the National League in stolen bases. It was 76 last year, and he's hitting 6th.
I know he drove in 39 runs last year, so you would say he's an ideal setup man. 1-1 pitch. It's fouled off. 1-2. Last year, Buck Rogers wanted to keep Otis Nixon. He didn't particularly like Marquis Grissom. So Dave Dombrowski, the general manager, wanted to get the younger players in the lineup. What did he do? He traded Otis Nixon. He got rid of him. Otis Nixon, of course, went on to bigger and better things in Atlanta, but Grissom is starting to develop as a major league player in Montreal. And the 1-2 pitch, fouled off. Remember one time when the general manager would say, I would like this, and it would be done?
Well, a general manager has precedent over the manager, and if he wants it done, he can get it.
This is with a breaking ball. 2-2.
Because of that decision, Buck Rogers was fired.
Yeah, he's in Anaheim with the Angels, and Dave Dombrowski jumped ship and went down to the Miami Marlins. There's a curveball fouled off. And this year,
John Smiley.
and how about Jim Leland? Not even consulted.
That's
I was
right. They
very
shipped
surprised.
him right off. Ted Simmons says we're going to get rid of a 20-game winner.
And a lot of money. Up high, 3-2.
The other one, Bill Landrum, who's now with Montreal as a relief pitcher, was let go. He appeared in more games than any other Pirate pitcher last year.
He's not even a stopper for Montreal. He's the setup man. Here's a 3-2 pitch. Up high, ball 4. So, Marquis Grissom goes down to first base. And as Ralph mentioned, a good base stealer.
He's going to steal here. He's got to go. Gooden's the worst in the league at holding runners on. So you got to figure that Grissom, who led the league in stolen bases, will be running.
Darren Fletcher, who's off to a hot start with the Expos, will bat against the doctor. He was smoking the ball against the Pittsburgh Pirates. just came from Pittsburgh, the Montreal Expos. They get 2 other catchers on the roster. Gary Carter, who got a tremendous ovation here at Shea Stadium during introductions, and another ex-Met, Rick Cerrone, as they check Grissom.
Doc Gooden made 215 throws over to first base last year and didn't pick a batter off. Or a runner. Batter runner, I guess, is a better way to put it. They had 33 stolen bases against him. He was second in the major leagues in that department. Lee Brandt had 35 stolen bases against him, and he's a left-hand pitcher. Doesn't hardly figure, does it?
Well, Grissom is manicuring the surface out in front of first base. I guess that's an indication he wants to get a good start. That would make me nervous if I was catching.
That's like revving up your engine at the stop sign. Huh? You want to race?
I'd be pitching out right now. There goes Grissom. And the throw by O'Brien offline. The ball goes into right center field. And Grissom hustles to third base. So he revved up his engine, and you know something? He did race.
He got out faster than Gooden got it on the way to the plate, and there was a stolen base, and that's his first this year. That pitch by Gooden was a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, but didn't do any good as Grissom made it.
So Grissom on third base, and Fletcher hits the ball hard, and Johnson is there and grabs it. So Mets don't get hurt by the stolen base in the air. And on the 7-11 scoreboard after 1.5 here at Shea, no score. Expos and the Mets. Well, we'd like to welcome everyone who's watching today's Mets game on Sports Channel's Spring Preview. Remember, to order Sports Channel, call 1-800-OK-CABLE and watch for Kurt Chaplin later in our telecast for more of Sports Channel's Spring Preview. Call in the office.
He borrowed that phone from you?
Oh, yes. Now, how about that? Great tie right there. The New York Mets. This guy's ready. He's dressed for the game. As we go to Howard Johnson, bottom of the second inning, no score. The Mets and the Expos. Hojo fouls the ball off. He had a home run in yesterday's ball game. Now has 4 RBIs on the season. As you can see, he's batting .278. Ralph, he looks quicker, if you can believe it, with the bat this year than he did last year.
Well, he led the league in home runs with 38, RBIs with 117. First switch hitter to ever lead the National League in runs batted in.
And the 0-1 pitch outside 1-1. If you get an opportunity to talk to Howard Johnson, he is so determined this year to better those stats.
Shouldn't you be?
But I mean, it's in his voice. It's in his every movement. He told me in St. Louis, I'm going to steal 40 bases this year. He's off and running.
He's already got 4. He leads the league 4 for 4.
I've talked about his acceleration first to second. He's as fast as anybody on a team. Might be the fastest.
Over Vince Coleman?
I'll tell you, he's got great acceleration. 2-1 pitch. Foul out of play. Howard Johnson, 30 years old, in the prime of his career.
Well, you really got to like his attitude. He's a hard-working and well-deserved ball player.
Yeah, very intense. And when let's face it, a few years back, the cries were ringing loud and clear in New York, get rid of Howard Johnson. Luckily, the Mets paid no attention and kept him. 2-2 pitch. Unable to check his swing. Strike 3. That's 1 down. By the way, Mets fans, this break in the action is a great time for you to break open an ice cold Budweiser and enjoy that clean, crisp taste. Nothing beats a Bud.
Well, the hard fastball set this pitch up. A good off-speed pitch, and Howard fooled totally by the split finger fastball, and he becomes the first strikeout victim.
And Kenny Hill will now face Eddie Murray. One man out. Murray late on the fastball, fouls it back into the sellout crowd. Not a play. Kenny Hill is another one of those pitchers, Ralph, that they're just waiting for him to burst onto the scene and just light up the National League. He's got great stuff.
Has a peculiar way of throwing the ball, sort of cocks it like an infielder before he releases, or like a catcher.
Short arms the ball.
Yeah, very short arm throw. He has a lifetime record of 23-32, so he's way under 500. He's done well against the Mets. 4 out of 5 decisions have gone his way.
1-2 on Eddie Murray.
Check out his motion here. Watch him sort of cock his elbow in the back here before releasing the ball. There's the cock and goes. He doesn't come around with that arm extended.
Now, if you compare that to Doc Gooden, you're going to see quite a contrast. Down low, 2-2.
That's got to be hard in his arm.
Well, the trouble with short arming the ball, as you know, infielders and outfielders, or especially infielders, short arm the ball to make it carry in a true fashion. Pitchers don't want the ball to carry in a true fashion. 2-2 pitch. Foul out of play, because the fastball, when you short arm the ball, will stay on that same plane. And as you know, Ralph, you don't want the ball on the same plane if you're a pitcher.
You want it to move off that plane and have good movement.
That's probably why his record is really not that good, because he throws hard. He has good stuff.
There's a split finger pitch right there for a ball. 3-2. Sort of like Rex Barney. Does anyone remember Rex Barney with the Brooklyn Dodgers? Barney had the fastest fastball I ever saw, well over 100 miles an hour, but it was straight.
You saw Hill's motion, short arming that ball to the plate. When the doctor gets out there, we'll show you quite a contrast. Here's a 3-2 pitch to Eddie Murray. Up high, ball 4. So Murray walks. The runner on first base, Ken Hill, will face Dave Magadan.
Magadan looking for his first hit this year.
As the graphic tells you, he's 0 for 6. No scores, no hits in this game. Doc Gooden against Ken Hill. And the first pitch to Magadan, swung on a missed strike 1. Should say foul tipped. Just tuned in, we have a sellout crowd. The festivities, the opening day festivities here at Shea are over. The Mets are down to business, taking on the Montreal Expos. First game of a 3-game series, and there's a shot of the crowd. Oh, 1 pitch. Magadan checks a swing. 1-1.
Interesting stat on Magadan. He's the first Met to ever have 4 walks in the ball game. Now, you would think it'd be a Howard Johnson or a Darryl Strawberry, because he pitched them very carefully. He's not a power hitter.
Has such a great eye at the plate. He has that short, compact swing. It's not real easy to fool Dave Magadan. Now, Howard has a longer swing, or an Eddie Murray with a longer swing, or a Bobby Bonilla. A little easier to fool those guys with a longer swing and a longer stride.
Not necessarily an indication of power. Short swings have been known to produce home runs too. It's just the approach to the ball. But you do have a better chance to wait longer when you have a shorter swing. It's a real asset, and especially if you have some power with it.
2-1 on Dave Magadan.
Take that big swing that Darryl Strawberry has. When his reflexes slow down, he's going to be in deep trouble.
That's right. He's going to have to make an adjustment. That's why they say in Major League Baseball, to stay around a long time, you have to make a series of adjustments. And our colleague, Mr. Staub, is a great example.
That was a short swing right there, Rusty, and he had some power. He had a very good short, get it on the ball type swing.
I can't believe Rusty doesn't get more votes for the Hall of Fame.
Well, nobody likes him.
You know, now I understand what you mean. We're around him a lot. And a 2-1 pitch. There's a drive to center field, but Grissom is there. And and makes the grab. 2 down.
Now, for all you people out there, that was meant to be a facetious remark. Everybody likes Rusty.
Now you're backing off, Ralph.
Well, I don't want those letters to come in. I mean, he's probably got his family writing from New Orleans right now. Wires will be coming in.
I know. Rusty's sitting in the press room listening to this. Maybe with a sandwich in front of him. Kevin Elster, the batter. 2 men down. Eddie Murray on first base. Breaking ball for a strike, 0-1. Do you think in September we'll be sitting here still sane as Kevin Elster goes to bat? Now here's one of the question marks with the Mets. Kevin Elster.
I don't think so, because if they really think that his arm is not up to the capacity it should be, there'd be somebody else playing shortstop.
Eddie Murray with the lead off first, and the 0-1 pitch. Foul off. 0-2.
So far it hasn't hurt the Mets at all. The Mets have done one thing. They've changed their alignment on relay throws from the outfield, with the third baseman going out to get the throws instead of Elster. Normally the shortstop is one of the 2 cutoff men if you use a 2 cutoff situation.
There's Bill Pecota, who will play shortstop if Elster goes down and the Mets are unable to trade for a shortstop. Although Al Harrison, in an interview in St. Louis, said that he will be more aggressive now in talking to other ball clubs, and he has certainly proven he's a very aggressive general manager. The 0-2 pitch. Murray breaks the second, and now he goes back to first. Good fake.
Well, he not only faked at going, he pulled Wallach off the bag, so there was no chance for the catcher, Fletcher, to throw to first, as Wallach wasn't covering at the bag.
I think Wallach's, well, of course he did play in college, but I think it's going to take him a while to get used to going off the base to get ready for a grounder, and then get back to the base in case there's not a ground ball. Outside, 2-2. It's funny how when you play a position like third base for a while, all of a sudden you make the switch to first. You think it's easy, but there are a lot of movements over there you have to be reminded about. A coach has to remind you, get off the base, play back. 2-2 pitch. Outside, 3-2. I remember when you had a good hitter and he couldn't play any place in the infield, the outfield, put him at first. First base is not that easy to play.
Well, now they got another option. They make him a DH. Of course, you can't do that in the National League. First base isn't that easy. It's a tough position.
How about Keith Hernandez? Two pitches popped up and out of play. Keith Hernandez, a marvelous first baseman. He did things at first base that were incredible. Of course, Keith Hernandez had the hands of a shortstop. A good shortstop.
Yeah, the hands of a pickpocket.
Yeah, he was outstanding. And Murray's very steady at first base defensively.
Steve Garvey once played the entire season without making an error.
Yeah.
All-time record, 162 games.
Runner moves. Elster at base hit left field. So the Mets, with 2 men down here in the bottom of the second inning, have runners on first and second.
Well, it's a 3-2 count. He gets a fastball, and of course Elster, like everybody else that gets to the major leagues, able to hit the fastball very well, and he puts a good swing on it, gets a good piece of it. That'll bring up Charlie O'Brien, who leads the National League in doubles.
Charlie with a couple doubles from yesterday's ball game.
2 hits and 4 at bats, and both of them doubles.
He's worked well with Doc Gooden in the past, but those days are over, I believe, where the Mets will have catchers catching pitchers because of the comfort zone.
Not with this manager. But Torborg did say that he liked the way O'Brien handled Young yesterday. He was very smooth.
Popped up to the right side. The Shields over there and gloves it. So that'll do it for the Mets. Here in the bottom of the second, they strand 2 runners, fail to score. We've played 2. We have no score here at Shea. We'll be 4. The Mets and the Expos, these same 2 teams, go at it again tomorrow afternoon. If you can't make it out to the ballpark, catch all the action right here on Sports Channel on our free preview.
Tomorrow, the Mets will have David Cohn on the mound. Pitched a very strong game against St. Louis and had a no decision. It'll be Dennis Martinez on the mound for the Expos. And Dennis with a perfect game against the Dodgers last year. No hit, no run, perfect game.
Well, the doctor.
There's
Look at
Dennis,
Dennis
the
Martinez.
first Nicaraguan to make the major leagues and make an all-star team. He has been an outstanding pitcher. Started his career with Baltimore.
Frank Cashin instrumental in signing Dennis Martinez.
He was told that by a brewmaster, and Cashin was working for a brewery at that time, or had worked for a brewery, that there was a good pitcher down in Nicaragua. Got to go take a look at it.
Spike Owen hits a fly ball in the gap, right center field. Howard Johnson over and gloves it. One down.
Well, Spike Owen has always hit the Mets well. His lifetime average, 241. His lifetime average against the Mets, 298. And he hit that ball well.
Well, so far, Howard Johnson looks relatively comfortable in center field.
Howard Johnson has looked great in center.
Good athlete.
And this is a tough center field to play in the daytime. Sun field right now. Later on, it'll be right.
Pitcher Kenny Hill fouls the ball out of play. 0-1. By the way, if you want to see some of the exercises and the work that Howard Johnson went through in spring training, working with the great Veda Penson, who's now a minor league coach, we'll have a feature tomorrow on our pregame show, Mets on Deck. As Hill takes strike 2, 0-2. On the year at 115 with Mets on Deck. Swung on and missed. And that'll do it for Hill, and that's the second strikeout for Gooden. Talked about Kenny Hill as a pitcher, the way he short arms the ball. Dwight Gooden is a pitcher who has pretty good arm extension.
Well, he will be getting a call, Dwight Gooden, from the head of the union, pitchers union tomorrow for throwing a curveball to that other pitcher, striking him out.
Well, he'll try to get Delano DeShields now, who's 0 for 1. He fly to left field back in the first inning. There's that good curveball. In his last outing in spring training against the minor leaguers, Gooden told me he had a real good curveball. And the 1-0 pitch. Pulled to the right side. Murray knocks it down. Doc's over there covering first. So score that one 3-1, and that'll do it for the Expos here in the third. They go quietly. We go to the
In the major leagues in home runs.
A lot of power.
He has 4.
Dwight Gooden leads it off for the Mets. Ken Hill's first pitch, a good fastball, but misses outside, ball 1. Well, the doctor struck Hill out on the curveball. Will Hill challenge him, or will he want to strike him out? Doc pops the ball up to the right side. Delano DeShields, fighting the sun, loves it. 1 down.
Oh, he showed you the motion of Ken Hill. Here's the motion of Doc Gooden, and you watch the extension on that throwing arm as opposed to Ken Hill. Gooden with a high late kick, and the arm is extended out rather than cocked up behind the ear. Now, this is the way Ken Hill throws his pitch to the plate. He comes up to a throw like a catcher.
Yeah, that's what you call short arming the ball to the plate. And when you look at Gooden throw, you look at a full range of motion on his arm. The way he gets that ball out of the glove, the arm goes down, comes up and around, he gets on top. Therefore, the ball doesn't stay. His fastball doesn't stay in the same plane. 1-0 on Darryl Boston. Swung on and missed, 1-1. Boston fly to center field his first time up. And the 1-1 pitch. Hit hard down the right field line. Extra bases for Darryl Boston. And he heads to second base, looking at the third base coach, and here he goes. There's a play. Safe.
showing that aggressive base running and a big base. Getting over to third with one man out. The ball hit right down the line by Tim Wallach. Larry Walker in right field has a good throwing arm. He gets it to the second baseman, DeShields, who makes a high throw to third base, which allows Boston to get in. And the Mets have a runner at third with one man out. Big play, good base running.
And the batter will be Willie Randolph. Real good base running by Darryl Boston and good coaching by Mike Covage. When Boston was between first and second, he didn't look over his shoulder at the ball. He looked at Covage, and Covage waved him around. So they got the infield in for Willie Randolph with one man down.
Early in the ball game to play the infield in with the heart of the batting order coming up.
Swung on and missed. Strike one.
By playing the infield in, it gives the hitter about another 100 points on his batting average to hit. And if he gets a base hit with an infield in, you got the third, fourth, and fifth hitters following. So it's unusual to play the infield in this spot.
This is a case where it's imperative to have a guy at the plate who makes contact. And you're looking at a guy that can make some contact. The 0-1 pitch. He was overmatched right there, though.
Had that fastball by him. It was out of the strike zone. Randolph, who had his best Major League year ever last year for Milwaukee, is behind the count, strike two. Hit .327 for Milwaukee last year in his 37th year in the majors. Terrific year with runners in scoring position at .373.
Darryl Boston at third base, 0-2 on Willie Randolph. Randolph puts the ball in play, but right at the Shields, who flips to Wallach, and Boston holds his ground. 2 down.
That time playing the infield in play paid off.
Tom Reynolds, the young manager with the Montreal Expos, he's telling everybody that it looked like he's telling first base is open. You're not going to go after Howard
They're not going to walk him there. No way.
He was talking about pitching around him.
I think what he's saying is go ahead and wind up. Don't take that stretch position here.
Well, let's see what happens. Bonilla takes down low, ball one. Reynolds, a young manager who replaced Buck Rogers. At plate was signed to a big contract to drive in runs for the Mets. He hits a fly ball to left center field. Grissom coming over, and Calderon makes the catch. So the ball tailing away, and Calderon making the grab. So the Mets strand a runner on third base, and on the Sherwin-Williams scoreboard, at the end of 3, there's no score. The Expos and the Mets.
If you're enjoying our preview, enjoying the Met action, go ahead and give us a call at 1-800-OK-CABLE and become a year-round subscriber to Sports Channel. You'll get action like this, one of 75 exclusive Met games coming your way. Plus, for action from around the big leagues, check out Penn and Chase every Thursday night at 6 o'clock. And how about the inside scoop on the Mets? For that, you go to Mets Inside Pitch, Friday nights at 6. And Rusty has a new show, At the Plate, coming to you from Rusty's own restaurant on 5th Avenue. He'll talk to you about everything from baseball to culinary arts. Hey, how about now the top of the 4th inning? Let's send it back up to the man himself, Le Grand Orange, Rusty and Ralph.
Okay, Kurt, now back here at Shea Stadium. Brett Barbary steps in for the Montreal Expos to face the doctor. No score after 3 innings of play, and now sliding in with the play-by-play, our colleague. Expo, ex-Met, Rusty Staub.
All right, the doctor, a breaking ball. Ball 1. First home game of the season. You're not even on an inning, and you and Ralph are slamming me. I did not have a sandwich in my hand. Line drive to center. Howard back and right there for the first out of the inning. Now, did you hear me? No sandwich. I did have a little ice cream though.
And of course, there's a guy who's pushed a few sandwiches away during spring training this year and during the offseason, Sid Fernandez.
Sid, just a little workout, see how that knee feels. It happened to him once in spring training. Gooden misses on the outside corner, ball 1. Sid came back from that. Pitched well. Ground ball foul. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Don Calderon, we mentioned earlier, another one of those players who was with the Chicago White Sox, traded away from the White Sox while Jeff Torborg was the manager.
Yep. Slow breaking ball, 2 balls, 1 strike.
For a while after that happens, it's an uncomfortable feeling when you run into the manager that traded you away.
There's a little resentment of some sort. That ball fouled off down the right field line out of play. 2 balls, 2 strikes. There is this a feeling that this club, you know, they didn't perceive me as they should have. Every player feels that in the back of his mind when he's moved. Sometimes you're happy when you're moved, though. You thank them. That pitch out of the strike zone. The count is full.
Well, Calderon went up to Montreal and had a pretty good year. Tim Raines, going to the White Sox, struggled a little bit, but he said he's optimistic he can have a good year this year with the White Sox.
Breaking ball. O'Brien thought it was a strike. The home plate umpire, Jim Quick, said ball 4. Second walk in the game for Gooden.
That didn't look like a bad pitch right there. Tough, though. You might fool the umpire when you throw a curveball in a situation like this. Tell you, that was a pretty good curveball.
Pitcher's pitch. That time the batter got the break. Larry Walker waiting. Doc steps off. And we'll throw over to first base. Calderon's legs have been fine. It was his arm that gave him trouble in spring training. Not going. There's a strike. Balk is called on Gooden.
Usually if Doc's called for a balk, it's because he does not come to a stop, which is considered an illegal pitch. Let's see it.
Well, that's a balk. It's a
fine line.
You're really looking for something big time. It's the spin all winter waiting on that. Breaking ball out of the strike zone, ball 1.
Remember a few years ago they were calling that all the time. Then they got away from it.
Bob Davidson, who has already been an umpire in the first series with the Mets in St. Louis. That was his forte. Down the left field line. This is trouble. Is it fair? Yes, off the wall. Expos are going to take a 1-0 lead. And Larry Walker going the other way with power.
Oh, he smoked
drives in the first run.
He smoked that ball to left field, going the other way. How many times you see a left-hander hit that wall right down the left field line? Look at this. Kicks that leg up, hits the fastball the other way, and look at where it hit. Wow, line drive off the left field fence.
Brings up Tim Wallach. With 1 down, the infield is back so far. A little pop back. At third base, Magadan saying, if you want to bunt it, you got it. Maybe rightly so in this situation.
Well, Wallach is tied for second in the all-time Expos hit list, 1,575. So I don't think you got a whole lot of bunts in those 1,575.
Good pitch by Gooden, up and in. Got Wallach chasing. Wallach's strength is the fastball down and in. He's a low ball hitter.
He's got that loop in his swing.
The previous pitch is exactly where you want the ball on Tim Wallach. Breaking ball, he hangs it. Foul ball. He didn't get a good piece of that.
I'm going to take a look at that swing from Tim Wallach. He glides out and he doesn't really sting this ball. As Rusty mentioned, a good low ball hitter. That pitch was up high, but he almost picked up an extra base hit.
Yes, he did. That was a bad pitch by Gooden, especially heading the count 0-2. Whoa, up and in.
Hit him.
Says it hit him. Didn't hit him very hard.
No. Must have hit that forearm, just nicked the forearm. Wallach diving into the pitch and Gooden going inside to get him off the plate. Too far inside. It's always a battle. The pitcher wants the hitter off the plate. You don't want to hit him. But Wallach was nicked by the pitch. How about Charlie O'Brien able to catch the ball? Usually when a batter is hit by a pitch, the catcher does not come up with the pitch.
Marquise Grissom waiting. You see he walked in the second inning.
We're going to take a look at that last pitch to Tim Wallach. It hit, let's see if it hit the uniform. Yeah, it looked like it hit the uniform. Around the stomach area.
Gooden turns around, trying to keep Larry Walker honest at second. Last year, Walker 14 stolen bases. Fouled off to the right side out of play. Infield looking for a double play. Magadan playing around a little bit at third. Sometimes he stays in, sometimes he moves back with Grissom. Now he's moving back. Breaking ball. Swing called. That's one of the times where the home plate umpire was helped by the first base umpire. They have little signals when it's a very difficult call. The umpire can peek out of his eye at the other umpire and get some assistance.
Here's that swing. Grissom going out aggressively after the ball and unable to check his swing. And first base umpire Paul Runge.
Paul Runge's a veteran umpire and a good umpire. A pitcher's umpire. Pitchers like it when he's behind the plate. Gooden with the breaking ball. Chance for the DP. Elster. The Randolph to Murray. And just like that, the Mets are out of their trouble in the top of the fourth inning. The Expos do score one run. And after 3.5, that's the score. Expos won, the Mets nothing. During the winter, I had someone come in every day and harass me just so I could feel normal.
And you're looking at the doctor in the Met dugout. Would you ever think that after the operation, Doc Gooden would be starting opening day at Shea Stadium? No way.
Howard Johnson to lead off the bottom of the fourth. Mets trailing by 1. Ball 1. Sid Fernandez still throwing in the Met bullpen. He's been throwing this long. That knee must be feeling pretty good. Ground ball right at the second baseman, Delano DeShields. Over to Wallach, 1 out.
An indication of how hard Hill throws is he beat Howard Johnson with the fastball. Rarely is Howard Johnson beaten with the fastball.
He's got that kind of funny little delivery of his where he's got really good wrist action at the end.
Well, he short arms the ball. We talked about it before. The problem with short arming the ball is it stays in that same plane, and that's probably why he doesn't have a big winning record.
High pop up to the infield. Drifting at the line. Calling is the shortstop Spike Owen. Fair ball, but 2 down.
I know a lot of people in the National League are very high in this guy, Ken Hill. As you see his release point right here now, he short arms the ball. He brings the arm up like a catcher, just like Ralph was mentioning before. or an infielder. And infielders and catchers, when they throw. Now look at Doc. His arm extension, now where he starts is a lot different when he takes out of the glove than Hill. But there's the Doc coming right over the top.
Magadan waiting. Strike one. The big thing that's helped Ken Hill is his changeup. So far today, his fastball has been working well. Top side 93 miles an hour. But he has a good changeup. Line drive knocked down by Wallach. Magadan running hard, and a fine play by DeShields after the ball was knocked down by Wallach. And Dave Magadan, another tough out. After 4, Expos 1, Mets nothing. He's off to a fine start. Fletcher 0 for 1. Make it 0 for 2. Line drive right at Randolph. Those are the ones you want in spring training. You don't want them during the season. Spring training, you like to hit every ball right on the button, and they catch all of them. And you figure you might have something coming during the year. But spring training is already forgotten. The Expos, as we said in the early part of today's show, did have a fine spring training. 20 wins, 12 defeats. Shortening up, Spike Owen. Magadan on the grass. Everybody else in their normal positions. A little bit of an open stance. Breaking ball, 1-1. Ralph and Fran told you Spike Owen has been a thorn in the side of the Mets. That ball fouled off out of play. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, one rumor had it this year that the Mets had been talking to the Expos about Spike Owen.
I asked Dave Van Horn before the game if he heard anything about that in the Expos camp, and he said no. Swing and a miss. Good breaking ball by the doctor.
Well, we heard it just the other day in St. Louis.
I understand, but that had been something out there. Let's take a look at this pitch.
And a curveball from the doctor. Outstanding curveball, one swinging over the top. Here's a side angle of the same pitch. It's a big league curveball from the doctor. Probably a little bit better than a big league curveball.
Right on the outside corner, strike 1. Ken Hill went down on strikes his first time up. He was the second strike out of the game for Gooden. Fouled straight back, 0-2. So far, so good for Doc Gooden. Seems to be throwing fluently. Has good composure, good location. That was pitch number 65 for Gooden. Top of the 5th. Expos 1, Mets nothing.
Doc Gooden was telling me after the operation he never in his wildest dreams thought he'd be pitching opening day here at Shea Stadium. It hurt so much when he started throwing.
Ground ball, Murray in the hole, snags it. Got to throw to Gooden, covering. And a nice play by the big first baseman. The Montreal Expos and the New York Mets will be right here at Shea again tomorrow. That's at 1:30. Mets on deck at 1:15. That's live and exclusive right here on SportsChannel. Bottom 3 in the lineup will take on Ken Hill, Elster, O'Brien, and Gooden. At third, Brett Barbary, even with the bag. Elster not a real bunter, but he does here, and he fouls it straight back. Barbary must have known something. Great day at Big Shea. Packed house. Met fans want some action though. Fly ball center field. Grissom. 1 down. Ken Hill has given up 2 hits. The Expos only 1 hit, but they have the most important issue covered. They have a run. O'Brien waiting. Just outside, ball 1.
Biggest trade for the Expos during the offseason was the acquisition of Ken Hill. They gave up a good player, Andres Galarraga, but in light of what happened in St. Louis to Galarraga, trade so far has worked out for the Expos.
High fly ball, left field. Calderon drifting. 2 down. Not a bluebird day out here today. A little bit overcast, a few clouds in the sky. That helps the outfielders. Shea has been noted as a very difficult outfield in a day game.
Some nice festivities before the ball game.
And Gooden with a single to left. Got jammed a little bit, but got it out quick enough. So the doctor is first hit of the season.
We'll take a look at the doc fighting that ball off and muscling the ball into the outfield. And it was Hill's fastest pitch of the day, 94 miles per hour, and the doc turned the heater around.
As you see, Wallach behind Gooden at first. Boston tripled down the line his first time up. Pardon me, his last time up. Got good aggressive base running. Mike Cubbage was waving him on when he picked him up as he was getting near second. Throw was about chest high into Bobbery. And he got a triple. Off speed pitch that time. Good pitch.
You know, when Boston's been called upon, he has done the job since joining the Mets. It's really incredible. He wanted more than a 1-year contract, and he got the 1-year contract, had to sign it. It looks like he has to prove himself every year.
That's not in the zone. 2-1.
Tough for a backup player, though. Backup players pretty much have to prove themselves every spring, and if they make the team again when they get the opportunity to play.
Sometimes it's not easy at all. Outside. 3-1.
I think what hurts a guy like Darryl Boston, he's such a big guy, strong guy. You're expecting a lot of power out of Darryl Boston. You're not going to get a whole lot of power. He sprays the ball around. And as we mentioned many times, a disciple of Walt Reniak.
You're going to get me started on opening day at home, right? High fly ball. Left field. Calderon's going to have to come in. He's under it. And the Expos are out of the inning. The Mets strand 1 in the bottom of the 5th. Expos 1, Mets nothing. We'll be back.
So happy to be bringing you this Met home opener here on our Sports Channel preview. And you know, this is just the start of a big day here on Sports Channel. Tonight we're going to head off to the Meadowlands for the Nets-Cavaliers game as the Nets continue to battle for a playoff spot. That's at 7:30 tonight. But right now we have a beautiful afternoon, a shirt sleeve crowd. And I'll tell you, the thing to have today is the suntan oil concession. Back to Rusty and Fran for the top of the 6th.
Okay, Kurt, and by the way, just a note of interest, I'm sure you're well aware that Ralph Kiner is starting his 31st, as we mentioned, year broadcasting Met baseball. There's another gentleman here in the booth, the television booth, who's in his 31st year, Andres Hernandez, who works the camera up here in the booth, and there is a real gentleman.
All right, Andres.
Does a great job.
Fay Vincent, Commissioner of Baseball, sitting downstairs checking out the beautiful day at Shea. High fly ball center field. Delino de Shields is out. This is a game where Howard Johnson is going to experience the sun at Shea. You remember a couple of years ago, Keith Miller struggled in center field. It's a tough center field here.
So far, so good for Howard Johnson.
Yes, it has been. Red Barbary, another hitter with the wide open stance. He's got those hips locked in there pretty good, though. Even though the foot is in the bucket, he comes toward the pitcher. If you let those hips open up, you're in trouble.
See a lot of guys doing that now, trying to get a better look at the ball.
Well, they got a real good look at that one. It just about rung his chimes in the kitchen.
Well, he's a young kid who the Expos are very high on. Played second base in college. He's a third baseman with the Expos. Watch him dive into the pitch.
Breaking ball going all the way to left field that time.
No, I don't want to ruin your day, Mr. Staub or Mr. Kiner, but watch him release the bat with, I mean, he carries it through with one hand. Now he dives into the ball, releases the bat a la Darryl Boston, who learned from Walt Reniak, and Reniak a disciple of the late Charlie Lau.
That ball out of the strike zone. 1 ball, 2 strikes. The only thing I can tell you, Francis, I was with Ted Williams this winter, and we had a long discussion on all this. We'll get to that in just a second. Fly ball, center field. Howard going back. It's carrying, but Howard's there for the second out. Anyway, Teddy Ballgame was talking about what's happened, and he says, you know, I really think the hitting instructors of this era have set hitters back about 20 years. People have talked about why the batting averages aren't up as much as they used to be.
Well, let's take a look at this swing again. Barbary diving into the ball, releasing the bat with one hand, which is a bad idea. Very bad idea.
Got a major hitch. You know, a lot of fundamental things wrong with that swing. It doesn't mean a guy can't hit that way. Hop up, shallow left field. Darryl Boston there. Nice quick inning for Dwight Gooden in the top of the 6th. The Expos still lead 1-0. Looking for a pop-up in the seats. Well, pop-ups is not what the Mets need at this time. Willie Randolph leading off the bottom of the 6th inning. Mets trailing by 1. Randolph, Bonilla, and Johnson against Ken Hill. Ball 1. Fans would like to remind you that Mets baseball is brought to you by Chemical Bank. Chemical, the human touch, the financial edge. One and one. Randolph looked like he was taking all the way there. Bottom of the 6th. Going to try to make sure that Ken Hill, if he wanted to get a little wild, he was going to let him. Just outside, 2-1.
Asked Willie before the ball game about all the commotion surrounding the club off the field. He's going with the flow.
Right at third base, Barbary a backhand over to Wallach, and Randolph is out.
The reason he can go with the flow, he was with the Yankees in the late 70s, the mid 70s. He's used to it. He was a real quiet kid with the Yankees. Of course, you had to be. You had Reggie in the team. Not going to get into word edgewise with Reggie. But Willie's used to all the commotion. There's a consummate professional right there, and has been since he came up to the major leagues. He's just been an outstanding player and an outstanding gentleman.
Fly ball deep to right center. Back is Larry Walker on the warning track, and right at the wall, he catches the ball Bonilla hit. Bonilla had him up off their seats, but right at the fence. 2 down.
A good swing by Bobby Bonilla, just getting under it and hit the ball a long way, a foot short of a home run. You can see Walker getting back and right at the wall making the grab.
That was good positioning by Walker. He was trying to time it in case the ball did carry, that he could maybe jump up and get over that low fence and still make the catch. If you drift into the wall, you cannot do that. That was good playing by Walker. Ball inside. Howard Johnson has struck out and grounded to second. Eddie Murray in the on-deck circle. 2 down now. Bottom of the 6th. ground ball to first, fair ball. Wallach takes it himself. So there was a thrill in the inning, but no hits and no runs. After 6, famed baseball player and a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. And the sportscasters wing, our colleague, Ralph Kiner.
All right, Rusty.
That's true, Ralph. 31 years you've been in this booth.
31 years.
What do you got to do?
Make it 32.
You'd be a double. Nobody's ever done that before.
There you go. Here's Larry Walker, who's driven in the only run of the game. He did it with a double off the left field fence on a line drive at the 3:38 mark. It scored Ivan Calderon, who had walked and was balked the second. Talking about 31, how about Bob Murphy? 31 years with the Mets, opened up in the Polo Grounds back in 1962. And another man in this ballpark who has spent 31 years behind the camera, Andres Hernandez.
We got Andres. We got him before.
Did you get him earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bob Mant is another guy who's been with the Mets that long.
John McCarthy, who is the supervisor at the stadium now, is the groundskeeper for the Mets, the Polo Grounds.
I'll tell you what, the field here looks great.
Walker with a count of 2-2, and he lines one to right field. So Walker, who the last part of the season hit .338 from the All-Star game on, continues to roll as he gets his second hit off Doc Gooden. That's only the second hit of the game by the Montreal Expos team. Walker has both of them. Walker's 49-point increase, largest by any rookie from the class of 1990 last year when he hit .290. Walker, the runner at first base, that increase, 76 points by a rookie to his sophomore year. Second to Al Simmons, who had a 76-point increase. Only Al Simmons did it from a .308 average to a .384 average. Walker almost picked off.
Well, that was close. I'll tell you, one of the oddities is the Expos have been one of the teams that have run the most over the last few years. Here's a look at Doc's pickoff move. Close play.
Yeah, they only have one stolen base this year, and last year they led the league in stolen bases. In fact, they don't have any stolen bases. They had only one attempt coming into this game, but they got one today, so they have their.
They're 1-1, but the opposition is 8-2 against them. That's hard to believe.
That is. Wallach, the batter, with no hits and one official at bat. He was hit by a pitch ball, grazed by a pitch ball his last time up. In fact, I don't believe it even hit him. It is uniform.
Jerry Manuel giving the signs at third. Wallach can hit and run. He has good power the other way.
1 ball, no strikes. Walker running. The ball hit out toward the second base side. Randolph bobbles it, but he has plenty of time, and he picks up the out. So the hit and run keeps the lead runner in position as he moves to second base. Would have been forced at second if he had not been running with a pitch. Now for Montreal, a runner in scoring position, and Marquise Grissom, the batter.
At time, the Mets did a good defensive maneuver. Second baseman stayed in his position, did not go and cover the bag. Had it been normal, the second baseman would have covered. That would have been a successful hit and run. So good defense and a good decision on the part of Elster and Randolph.
Grissom has walked and grounded into a double play in his 2 at-bats, and he takes low for ball 1. Grissom had that 1 stolen base for Montreal. He now has 100 stolen bases in his short major league career. And the breaking ball hangs high in the count, 2-0. Montreal had an outstanding spring. They won 20 games while losing 12. Played 6 games against the Mets this spring and won 4 of the 6. And this is the first of 3 in this 3-game series at Shea with Montreal. and the curveball, and it's ball 3. 3 balls and no strikes to Grissom. Manager of the Montreal Expos, looking on, Tom Reynolds. And on the 3-0 pitch, Grissom gets a curveball, and it's in there for a called strike, 3-1. How often do you see 231 hitter being thrown a curveball on a 3-0 count? Jeff Torborg, his first year with the Mets, and this one is popped up on the second base side. Randolph will make the play for the second out of the inning, and Walker holds at second base.
Some nice visitors up here, Ralph, during the course of this game. Before the game, we heard Glenn Coase sing both national anthems. She's up here saying hello with Gene Hackman, and Val Kilmer also at the game today. So it's a big day on opening day at Shea.
And the Montreal Expos so far are spoiling the fun as they lead it by a score of 1-0. A capacity crowd here today. 2 more games with Montreal. Tickets are available Saturday and Sunday for the first series here. One man at second base, and the batter is Darren Fletcher, who has hit the ball well twice. So the Mets aren't taking any chances with him. They're going to walk him intentionally. Fletcher line to center and line to second his first 2 at bats. He had his first 3-hit game in the major leagues yesterday against the Pittsburgh Pirates, so he's going to be walked to face Spike Owen, who has a .299 lifetime average against the Mets, in spite of the fact that his lifetime average in the major leagues is .241. So the Mets will take their chances with Spike Owen.
Jeff Torborg, Mel Stottlemyre asking O'Brien to go out and talk to Gooden. You know, they're counting the pitches of Dwight Gooden. During the course of spring training, they didn't want him to go past a certain number of pitches as he got stronger. You're looking at Wally Wordhurst warming up just in case. Gooden has pitched exceptionally well. He has thrown 90 pitches so far.
He's about to the end of his limit right now.
That's about it.
So Doc Gooden, who has won more games than any pitcher in the history of Major League Baseball with the fewest losses, his winning percentage .714. Second to him is Dave Founts, who has a winning percentage of .690, winning 147 and losing only 66. Whitey Ford is third in that department with a .690 percentage, 236 wins, 106 losses. Gooden has won 132 and lost 53, and his first pitch is ball 1.
I think the most remarkable thing, Ralph, is how much control of each pitch, the fastball, the curveball, and the changeup, Gooden has had today.
And the 1-0 pitch, the fastball for ball 2. 2-0.
But this is as many pitches as he has thrown this year.
The on-deck batter is the pitcher, and now action starting up in the bullpen for Montreal. Doug Simon starting to throw, the former Mets pitcher who was with the Mets all of last year. And the pitch is lined to left, and Spike Owen does it again. Coming in to score is Larry Walker, and Spike Owen, man, the Mets just can't handle, has singled in the second run of the game, and Montreal leads at 2-0, and that's the last pitch for Doc Gooden.
Torborg coming out to the mound. Spike Owen did not hit that ball right on the button, but he fought it off well. Hit it in the right location, made it an easy chance for the runner to score.
Well, as a left-hand batter, he has hit .272 in his major league career, as opposed to .225 as a right-hand batter.
And fans, this call to the bullpen is sponsored by New York Telephone, who reminds you we are all connected.
Here with a ERA of 0 will be taking over. 2 men away, bottom of the 7th inning. Montreal leading 2-0, and the batter, Ken Hill, who has pitched a brilliant game, shutting out the Mets through the first 6 innings, allowing just 3 hits, as well as Gooden allowing 3. And now the pitch, fastball grounded, and it's a foul ball, so it's strike 1. Roy Walker, with 2 of the 3 hits, has done the Mets in. He has driven 1 in and scored 1. As Montreal leads by 2. Hill has struck out and grounded out in his 2 appearances. And Whitehurst back, and the fastball topped out in front of the mound, picked up by Whitehurst. That retires the side. But another run for the Expos on 2 hits. There were 2 left. And the score at the end of 6.5 innings, Montreal 2, the Mets nothing.
Oakland.
And here at Shea Stadium, it's 2-0 Montreal, with the Mets batting in the bottom of the 7th inning. Eddie Murray will lead it off. Capacity crowded it today. Mets in home openers with a record of 18-12 in their history. One of those losses to Montreal. And Montreal played their first game ever in the major leagues. And the fastball outside the ball. Murray has walked. He also has popped the short. He is 4 for 15 so far this year with no home runs and 1 RBI. And the fastball for a strike, 1-1. It'll be Murray, Magadan, and Elster as the scheduled batters for Ken Hill, acquired from the St. Louis Cardinals. And the fastball is missed. And Jeff Ennisthorn in the bullpen for the Mets. Murray second to Dave Winfield for the most home runs by any active player in the major leagues. Murray with 398. And struck him out on the changeup. So Ken Hill picks up a strikeout, his second on his 69th pitch. He has pitched with a lot of economy.
This is a good off-speed pitch. We talked about 93, 94 miles an hour, but this is why it's even more effective. Watch the ball go down and away. Pull the string. Watch him get way out front now, trying to make some contact after he thought it was a fastball. Good pitching.
Now Ken Hill to Dave Magadan, and Magadan jammed by the fastball, fouls it off. Magadan 0 for 2, looking for his first hit this year. He's 0 for 8.
He's hit about 5 shots for 5 of those outs. Seems like there's about 11 people on the field as far as Magadan is concerned.
And the fastball, 1 ball, 1 strike.
7.3 hits per 9 innings last season, the 4th fewest in the National League.
And had a record of 11 and 10. They don't go together.
And it's not that he walks that many people.
And again, the fastball to make that 3-1. His teammate Jose De Leon, when he was with the Cardinals, somewhat similar to him.
He walked 67, struck out 121. That's not that bad.
So back now with a count of 2-2. Hill's lifetime record under 500 by a considerable margin. He's 23 and 32.
He started coming into his own. Got off to kind of not a really positive start, but 6-2 in his last 10 starts.
Back
with
that
that
fastball.
With that 6-2, Ralph, he had a 2.14 earned run average. So as he finished the season last year, he started to feel like he was a real major league pitcher.
4-1 lifetime against the Mets. Two balls, 2 strikes. Again, the foul ball. He was picked up by the St. Louis Cardinals as a non-drafted player, so he didn't show too much when he was in high school. Went to North Adams State College from Lynn, Massachusetts. That split finger actually is a forkball more than a split finger, which is similar to a forkball. They're held about the same way, and now he goes to a full count on Magadan. On deck batter Kevin Elster.
Why don't we call it a forkball or it's a type of a changeup is what it is, Ralph.
Yeah, it's not a fastball. A split finger fastball is a misnomer because it's an off-speed pitch and it is similar, much more like a forkball or a changeup than it is a fastball. And he walked him, so the Mets get a base runner, and that puts the tying run at the plate. Second walk given up by Hill. The other was to Murray on a similar pitch, a 3-2 pitch, way back in the second.
You're looking at Tom Runnels, the manager of the Montreal Expos. Spike Owen coming in to talk to the young pitcher. So far, nobody warming in the bullpen, but Bill Pacoda ran out of the dugout, and he will run for Dave Magadan at first.
And in all likelihood stay in the ball game at third base. Mackey Sasser in the on-deck circle. The next batter coming up is Kevin Elster, followed by Charlie O'Brien. And no action in the bullpen. Now someone stirring out there, and we'll see a pitcher warm up as Elster fouls off the fastball. Elster with one of the 3 hits for the Mets, single to left field on a 3-2 fastball back in the second inning. Also has flied to center. Bill Landrum acquired by Montreal after he was released by the Pittsburgh Pirates, throwing in the bullpen.
That was the 78th pitch by Ken Hill.
And it's bunted out to the third base side. And Elster is thrown out, attempting to beat out a bunt for a base hit. He'll probably get credit for a sacrifice as the bunt moved Pacoda down to second. He was trying for that base hit to be the tying run at first.
Hill showing great athletic ability, just bounced off the mound in a hurry. If Elster was going to be successful on that, he was going to have to bunt it a little firmer. Barbary was back. Pissarro, the left-hander, out in the bullpen.
And for the Mets, it's going to be Mackey Sasser. He's been announced in as the pinch hitter, and we'll see whether or not they'll make a pitching change. I would doubt it. Joe Kerrigan, the pitching coach, out there to talk to his pitcher. Normally the manager will make that pitching change. Try Bud Dry. It's dry brewed, not watered down, to drink light, yet satisfy completely. Why ask why? Try Bud Dry. They're not scoring that as a sacrifice, and that is really good scoring. Very, very few official scorers in Major League Baseball have the knowledge, I guess it is, to score that as a bunt attempt and not a sacrifice. So Mackey Sasser, the pinch hitter for Charlie O'Brien, who was 0 for 2. Sasser, a lifetime .300 batter against right-hand pitching. And he gets his first pitch, a fastball for ball 1. Mets have the tying run at the plate, 2 men out. We're in the bottom half of the 7th inning. Jeff Torborg in his first official game here at Shea Stadium. Came into today's game 2-2. 2 wins, 2 losses against the Cardinals. This one deep to center field, moving Grissom back, and he is there, and he makes the catch. So Sasser hits it hard, but to no avail. A walk and a runner left at second. And on the Sherwin-Williams scoreboard, it's Montreal 2, the Mets nothing.
Channel's Spring Preview. You know, Sports Channel has great action like this all year long. And you can get in on that action by calling this phone number, 1-800-OK-CABLE, for the best of the Mets, Nets, Devils, Islanders, and college sports. And you know, that's why we say Sports Channel really is a lot to get excited about. So call that number, 1-800-OK-CABLE. To the top of the 8th, let's go up to Rusty and Ralph.
Okay, Kurt, and here in the top of the 8th, the Mets have made a couple of defensive changes. Both of them were in the ball game as pinch hitters. And the Mets trailing by a score of 2-0. Pacoda, the third baseman, and Sasser, the catcher, as Wally Whitehurst works to his second batter. Lionel DeShields leading off here in the 8th inning. DeShields 0 for 3, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. And a check swing for a strike, a foul ball, 1 ball and 1 strike.
All right.
That's your hair, huh?
I hope not.
Remember the time the Mets came out here all
with the red wigs,
fake red wigs to honor you?
They came out at the right time. I was struggling right there.
And the curveball checked on and fouled. That's 1-2.
Delino DeShields, one of the few players that wears his uniform like it should be.
Like you used to wear. Mark Dewey, the right-hander, and Paul Gibson,
check those socks.
Left-hander out there.
Right up at the knees.
Boy, everybody used to wear them back in the 30s and 40s. Ground ball to third. Pacoda with his first chance picks up the out, 1 away.
George Brett used to do it for a while. I don't know what happened.
The amazing thing about it, you want the low pitch called a ball, and the higher you wear your pants, the more chance you have of the umpire calling that pitch a ball.
Bet on it. You can tell the umpire, look, you telling me that pitch is as high as the knees?
You wear them low, and that makes the strike zone larger. So
it seems like it anyway.
Yeah. I don't understand it, but who can? Who can understand modern day baseball and the fastball high for a ball?
I could have got him to make those things up to about the top of my knee,
mid-thigh. I mean, you get the letters down around the belt and the bottom of the pants about mid-thigh.
Crouch. And crouch.
And then get the deep crouch. Get that strike zone smaller. Take that advantage away from the pitcher. 1 ball, 1 strike to count. Barberie, the batter. And it's ball 2, 2-1. Barberie 0 for 3 in the game. Another USC baseball player in the major leagues. 3-1. SC noted for baseball. UCLA noted for basketball out on the West Coast.
Opening day, third base. Not too many of them.
Well, Wallach has been there a long time as Barberie hits it high in the center. Misjudged by Howard Johnson. It hits and bounces over the fence for a grounds rule double, and Barberie now leads the National League in 2 base hits with his 3rd. High fly ball. The sun, of course, tough in center field. And it drops and bounces. A little trouble there. First time this year that Howard's had trouble. Looked like he didn't pick that ball up.
It's very tough out there right now.
I mentioned earlier that the outfield here in the daytime is extremely hard to play at Shea Stadium. The worst sun field I ever played in was Yankee Stadium.
In left field, right?
Wow.
Well, there were a lot of right fields that were pretty tough when I.
Most of them
seemed like they always said, well, we don't need the right fielder anyway. Let's put the sun in his face.
Yeah. Left field in the old Polo Grounds, the second game of a doubleheader was really tough, but Yankee Stadium the hardest all the way around. There's a base hit to right field. Calderon, the batter, and now coming with the run to score is Barberie, who got the double, and it's a 3-0 ball game in favor of the Expos as they have really used their scoring opportunities well. 3 for 3 in scoring opportunities.
Fans wanted to see Bonilla make the big throw at the plate. Barbary with very good speed. If he would have done that, all it would have done is let Calderon have a chance to go to second.
So Calderon, his second RBI. That brings up Larry Walker, who drove in the first run of the ball game and scored the second. He's 2 for 3 in the game.
The ball, particularly in center, and left field, is carrying very well today.
And the throw to first base. Calderon back. He was balked the second and the fourth, and then scored on a double by Walker. First run of the game. Curveball hangs outside. 1 ball, no strikes.
The Mets last year dominated the Expos, won 14 of the 18 games. But this is a new year.
Walker hitting in the cleanup position. Didn't want to bat in that position. He was superstitious about it. But you get that opportunity hitting fourth to drive in those runs, and he has Calderon at first base. He had him at second back in the 4th inning. And got him in. 2 balls, no strikes. Jeff Torborg, who uses that computer, as did Davey Johnson, checking out the computer stats. Let's have a man who travels on the road keeping track of the stats. This game is becoming like a machine. The 2-0 pitch. It's still a game that you play by the seat of your pants, no matter what they say, no matter how many jobs they want to create.
Seat of your pants, huh? All the way.
Instinct. Nobody had to tell Willie Mays how many times the sun was setting in the east, or is it the west? Now the runner goes, and the pitch is swung on and fouled back out of play. 2-2 the count. Calderon back to first base. Montreal leading 3-0. The first of 3. Tickets available for tomorrow afternoon's game. Game time at 1:40. And also Sunday.
We're looking at the second team in a row that has changed their uniform. We're also going to see the Phillies, Ralph. That's 3 teams in a row that'll have changed their uniforms this year.
Cardinals, the Expos, and the Phillies. And a throw to first base. The Phillies made quite a production out of the new uniform. They kept them under lock and key. Wouldn't tell anybody about them till they brought them out opening day.
Big question was, after they did that, did they fit? Could the players get in them? There's some clubs had to send their uniforms back. They had to use the spring training uniforms because they couldn't get in the uniforms.
What was the great line? They asked Yogi Berra in spring training what size hat that he wore. He says, I don't know. I'm not in shape yet.
Yeah, that is a new logo for the Phillies. You're looking at it.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Go to first. Calderon back.
The uniform the Phillies had at home actually might have been illegal because it did have what resembled a baseball on a uniform. That is not legal. It was kind of passed on. Now they won't have to worry about it. It's gone.
Calderon with 31 stolen bases last year does not go, and a swing and a miss at the curveball. 2 men away.
Whitehurst gets his first strikeout. Nice off-speed pitch. Way out front is Walker.
And it brings up Tim Wallach. Wallach is 0 for 2 and also has been hit by a pitch ball. over to first. Calderon being really worked on. 300 batter last year from Montreal after being traded for Tim Raines. Good solid ball player. And Wallach hits it in the air to center field. Johnson back, the glasses down. He makes the play to retire the side, but another run for Montreal. And after 7.5 innings, it's Montreal 3 and the Mets nothing. On base and scoring position. And now batting in the bottom of the 8th inning, and this ball hit the deep center going back. Grissom, and on the attempt, a fine play by Grissom to make the catch.
As you can see, we told you the ball is carrying. The first steps by Grissom were not back, and then he had to shoot back in a hurry. Made a nice play on that ball, but it's a tough center field right now.
So that'll bring up Darrell Boston, who is 1 for 3, tripled in the third with 1 out, but was left at third base when Willie Randolph couldn't get him in. With the infield in, Randolph grounded weakly to the second baseman. And Boston had to hold at third. He also stayed at third when Bonilla flied to left. One of the 3 runners in scoring position for the Mets in this game, and the first pitch to Boston. A strike. And the breaking ball. 1 ball, 1 strike. And this one is popped up into shallow center field. Again, it's Grissom. And again, he picks up the out. So it's been an easy day so far for Ken Hill. And he'll be working to Willie Randolph. Paid crowd here today, 47,218 total in the house, 48,787. Sellout crowd here at Shea Stadium in their first game of the year at home. Randolph 1 for 13 so far this year, and he takes the first pitch for ball 1. Cardinals and Cubs tied at 1. That game in the bottom of the 6th inning, the only other game going in the National League. Fouled it off on the right side. 1 ball, 1 strike. In the American League, 1 game underway. Baltimore leading Toronto 3-1. That game in the bottom of the 6th. Sitting comfortably in this game with a 3-0 lead. Tom Reynolds, the manager of the Montreal Expos. And this ball hit hard, a base hit to left field. So Randolph singles with 2 men out here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Let's get their 4th hit, and it brings up Bobby Bonilla. Bonilla has flied out the 3 times he has been up. He's been impartial. He has flied out to each outfielder.
Last time up, almost hit a home run right at the wall in right field.
And the first pitch bounced up the middle. The Shields comes up with it, flips to Owen, the shortstop covering at second to retire the side. So no runs, 1 hit, 1 left, and the score at the end of 8. Montreal 3, the Mets nothing.
Not had a save. He's pitched that 1 inning, gave up a hit, and struck out 1 batter.
And it's the winning pitcher against the St. Louis Cardinals in the opening series, his first win since June 24th, 1990, a win against the Philadelphia Phillies. And then it's got the win in relief of David Cohn, who pitched a very strong ball game against St. Louis with a no decision, striking out 9. And David Cohn will be on the mound tomorrow afternoon, game time at 1:40 against Dennis Martinez, the man who pitched the perfect game against the Dodgers last year.
2 pretty good pitchers. Should be a great matchup. Of course, today's matchup has been pretty good too, Ralph. Not a lot of offense.
The Expos taking advantage of their chances, and the Mets not. as Ennis will be working to Marquise Grissom. Grissom has walked. He also has grounded into a double play and popped to second. Grissom with a stolen base back in the second, now stealing his 100th stolen base. And he drives this one down the left field side. It'll be extra bases. It is over the fence and off the wall and back of the fence. It's gone goodbye, a home run. Marquise Grissom with his first home run of the year. It's now 4-0 Montreal.
I've heard of jumping on the first pitch. Won't be done any better than that.
Montreal's first home run of the year out of the ballpark. Their first home run coming on an inside the park home run by DeShields against the Pirates. Now their second of the year. This one over the fence, and the next pitch by Darren Fletcher hit out the deep center field, and Johnson makes a catch. Fletcher was walked intentionally his last time up after lining out his first two.
Let's take a look at the home run. Fastball right out over the plate. Full extension. As you see, it's going to hit that pad on the back wall. That is a rocket.
So now 4-0 Montreal, and Spike on the batter, and Spike drove in the second run for Montreal with a single after he saw Darren Fletcher walked intentionally as the Mets tried to get the Spike on, and Spike spoiled the strategy. First pitch of ball. 0-1 for 3 in this game. And it's grounded out to the first base side. Eddie Murray makes the play, 2 men away. That'll bring up Ken Hill, who's going to try for a complete game shutout as he is left in the ball game. Hill 0 for 3. But what is more important, he has held the Mets to no runs on 4 hits. Ennis gets a strike. Ennis last year pitched in 69 games. 69 games without a win or a save. And he comes back with a breaking ball and gets it in there. The record for most appearances without a win, Bob Murphy, 76 games without winning a game. Rob Murphy.
The only error in the ball game won by the Mets was really not a factor in the ball game. That came back in the second inning. It was on the steal by Marquise Grissom. An overthrow, and Grissom went to third but did not score.
2 strikes to count, and a sweeping curve. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Ennis has made only 1 game start in his major league career. That was after Aguilera was scheduled to be the starting pitcher, took some warm-up pitches and then couldn't pitch, and they put Ennis in, and he got his only major league start. Right there he gets a strikeout, so he has given up 1 run on the home run by Grissom. So no runs on a total of 4 hits. And Ken Hill in his first start this year, coming into this game with a record of 11-10. Those decisions for the St. Louis Cardinals. Ken Hill traded to the Montreal Expos for Andres Galarraga and the fastball for ball 1. Howard Johnson 0 for 3 with a strikeout. He has grounded out to second twice. And the Mets need some base runners to hopefully get back in this game. And this one grounded to the second baseman once again. It's bobbled by The Shields, who led all second basemen in the National League in errors last year with 27, gets it going for the New York Mets. A routine play, and the Shields bobbles it.
That's the ones he really had the trouble with. Let's watch and see if he takes his head off the ball. He certainly did. He assumed it. Now watch his head. He's going to take his eye off the ball, looking toward first base. You got to look that ball into your glove. They tell you that when you're in second grade, second semester, Ralph.
Right into the glove. Of course, the fact that Howard Johnson is noted for running fast and hustling all the time might have helped. And that brings up Eddie Murray, who is 0 for 2 with a walk. And Johnson running with a pitch, and he gets in safely. He now leads the league in stolen bases with his 5th. A real gamble there. As the Mets are trailing by 4, we're in the bottom of the 9th, but he made it, so you can't criticize it.
He said if you're going to play behind, and then Wallach did move up, but he had a big lead. Tell you what, sliding very late, but he's in there. You got to be safe in those circumstances. You cannot be thrown out.
Absolutely right, and he was. So the Mets with a runner at second. That takes the double play away. And Murray fouls it off. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. Murray has popped his short and struck out in his 2 appearances. Got him with a fork ball, a changeup, his last time up. No action in the bullpen for Montreal. They're staying with their starter, Ken Hill. And the fastball popped up in foul territory. And it's a tough play, and it will drop. Drops in foul territory as Barberie couldn't get to it, the third baseman, or Spike Owen, the shortstop.
Seemed like everybody was expecting the other guy to call him off. Let's take a look at him. See Barberie, he's going all the way. He shies off. There's Spike. Owens looks at him, says he's not going to get there. I'm going to try it. At the end, he almost had some interference.
Not too well played by Barberie.
He had a chance. He was the one guy that had the shot at it.
Can't give him an error on the ball. Would have been a very, very good play if he'd have made it. Now again, the 1-2 pitch. It's in the dirt. Good play on it by the catcher, Darren Fletcher, who was with Philly last year. And it's 2-2.
We will see if Eddie Murray can take advantage of it. Play like that when you think you're going to be out. Good play would have gotten you out. It's new life. You always feel like it's a fresh at bat when you're up there. You got another chance at it.
Got a call from the governor. 2-2 the count.
As you can hear in the background, we do have a couple of planes flying overhead.
Montreal leading 4-0. The Mets batting here in the bottom of the 9th inning. A runner at second, no one out. 2-2 count on Eddie Murray, with Bill Pecota on deck. And a check in the swing. Did he go? He did. He is called out by third base umpire Tom Healy. Murray unhappy with that call, as he thought he had held up. Murray reluctant to go and happy with this call.
Let's take a look at it. Borderline, you can understand the umpires. They've been caught so many times on these replays.
Third strikeout for Ken Hill, and with one away, that'll bring up Bill Pecota, who was a pinch runner.
That's Jim Quick who made that call. Just for the record, they announced one group of umpires, and they've got them scattered all over the field in different positions today.
Didn't come into their normal rotation. Murray's still unhappy. Can't blame him there. That pitch ball 2. 2 balls and no strikes. Pecota hitting .333 so far this year.
That is not a happy camper right there.
The 2-0 pitch popped up into shallow center field. It'll be playable for Grissom, and the Mets now are down to their last out. With Kevin Elster coming to the plate, he has one of the 4 hits in the game, a single back in the 2nd. Expos got a run in the 4th, a run in the 7th, a run in the 8th, a run in the 9th, and they lead 4-0. The losing pitcher at this point in the ball game is Doc Gooden, who pitched a very strong game, although he did give up 2 runs, allowed only 3 hits, struck out 3 and walked 3. Elster so far this year, 3 hits and 12 at bats, hitting .250. He bunted his last time up in the 7th inning with a runner at first base. Moved the runner down to 2nd and did not get credit for a sacrifice. The Mets are trailing at that point in the ball game by a score of 2-0. And this ball hit down the right field side. It's foul, and it drops down, so it's a 1-1 count. Cardinals and Cubs still tied at 1. That game going to the top of the 8th. And Baltimore still leading Toronto 3-1. That game in the top of the 7th. Only other games in progress.
Ken Hill on the mound the whole day, going for a shutout. This will be his 100th pitch of the ball game.
1 ball, 1 strike to count. Elster takes the curve. 2-1.
He started Elster off with a breaking ball. I was a little surprised by that. I'm sure he wants to maintain the shutout. The pitcher has that in the back of his mind.
Hill with a lifetime record of 23 wins, 32 losses. Pitching a masterful game here today. And this one popped up down the right field line, a long run for Walker, and he makes a diving catch, and did he get it in the air? He did, and that's the ball game. What a play by Larry Walker in right, and that preserves the shutout, and the Montreal Expos win it 4-0. So in the bottom half of the 9th, no runs, no hits, an error, a stolen base, a runner left at 2nd. And the final score, the Montreal Expos 4, the New York Mets nothing. We'll be back with a recap right after these messages. Cut down on a tremendous pitching performance by Ken Hill. The loser in the ball game was Dwight Gooden. And if there was any doubt about Gooden's arm, it was certainly dispelled here today as he pitched a very strong ball game in spite of being the losing pitcher.
Had complete composure. Location was very good. All of his pitches seemed to be working. You said during the game, Ralph, that the Expos seemed to take advantage of the few opportunities they had a little more than the Mets did, and that's very true. Both teams on the mound looked very good. Not a lot of offense. One of the really big offensive plays in the game is going to be our Budweiser play of the game. Larry Walker in the 4th inning of this ball game with men on base. Had the opportunity, and he hit a shot down the left field line, and that put the Expos on the board. You're going to look at it here right now. Gooden coming to him. Fastball down and away. Not a really good pitch, and he hit it very well. The ball was carrying well the opposite way. Line shot off the pad, and well, the Expos score that first run. Ivan Calderon scoring.
And a first run that was enough for the ball game to go to Montreal. That run coming after a walk by Doc Gooden and a balk, and he was on at 2nd base for the double by Larry Walker. The Mets had a scoring opportunity, their only real opportunity in the ball game, when Darrell Boston tripled in the 3rd inning with 1 man out, but he was left at 3rd base as Willie Randolph with the infield in grounded weakly to 2nd, and then Bobby Bonilla flied out to left field. So a star, the Texaco star of the game, certainly Ken Hill, who pitched a very strong 4-hit shutout, his first victory of the year, and Ken Hill, the Texaco star of the game, as Montreal won it by a score of 4-0. There are 2 more coming up with the Montreal Expos. And we'll be right back after these messages.